You know, it's funny. A new Happy Gilmore came out a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was abysmal. Thought it was an insult to both comedy and fans of the original film, which I love to tears. And some people in the comments said I was overthinking it. I demanded too much from a Happy Gilmore sequel, and I didn't know what comedy was anymore. Laugh, Adam! But then, I watched another legacy comedy last night called The Naked Gun. So imagine my surprise when I saw a competently made movie that had tight cinematography, a solid script, played homage to the original without having to repeat every line of dialogue. In fact, it's pretty separated from what came before, and I found myself laughing my ass off along with a full theater. So, how are you gonna play this one, commenters? It's a rhetorical question. I don't really care. These are my opinions. These were my feelings watching both films. And now I want to tell you about The Naked Gun in a spoiler-free review. So like an elephant in a circus tent full of mice, I'm gonna stay on my toes and not give away the details. Now I know what you might be thinking. Surely you must be joking. There's no way they made a good comedy again. Comedy's dead! And to that I simply reply, yes they did. And don't call me Shirley. Call me Frankly, because frankly, I'm impressed. Say, before I mesmerize you with one of the greatest reviews you've ever heard in your life, if you wouldn't mind being a doll, a Ken or a Barbie, it doesn't matter, you decide, and subscribe to the show, Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, I would be over the fucking moon. I would appreciate it. All right, let's get into this. Now, unfortunately, the great Leslie Nielsen has come and gone from this planet, leaving behind a fantastic legacy of comedies, and in his stead, we have Liam Neeson, which sounds an awful lot like Leslie Nielsen. Leslie Nielsen, Liam Neeson, possibly the same person. But no, even though Liam Neeson does handle the deadpan pretty much effortlessly, he plays it differently. They're very different types of characters, and I have to say, as great as Liam Neeson is, no one hits deadpan near as well as Leslie Nielsen. And so that's why it's not hard for me to say this, it's barely even flaccid at this point, that the new Naked Gun is really fun from beginning to end, but it's still not near as good as the original. The OG's just got a special place in my fart. Because this is a legacy sequel, it of course has the tried and true tropes, but the movie acknowledges it and has fun with them. Liam Neeson plays Frank Drebin, the new version. He's the son of Frank Drebin, the original, and obviously the age, the time doesn't really map out. I'm kind of surprised they didn't make fun of that, but there's enough going on. There's enough jokes here where you don't take anything serious, as it should be. This new police squad is filled with kids of the original characters. There's even a point where you see in the trailers that really sticks the landing, where they're all crying, praying at the altar of their dead fathers. One of whom looks up at his dad and sees the face of O.J. Simpson smiling back at him, leading to some great meta humor. Danny Huston, who I think has played a villain in over 8 million movies, is the villain in this film. And while his character Richard Kane is played mostly straight man, he still gets to do some comedy here and there. There's a few other supporting characters to round out the cast, but this mainly rests on Liam Neeson's shoulders. Pamela Anderson gets a good amount to do as well as the love interest, but if Neeson doesn't work, this movie doesn't. And thankfully, he does. In fact, he works for a full 90 minutes, but off camera, he worked a lot longer because movies take longer to make than the 90-minute runtime. So he worked for months, I would imagine, and he was paid for his job. Hope that clears things up. This movie has 3 writers attached to it, one of which is also the director, Akiva Schaffer. And he's also part of the hilarious trio, The Lonely Island. Putting this property in his hands was obviously the right thing to do. Plus, you got Seth MacFarlane producing this thing. Parody movies were killed off decades ago. The closest thing to emulate that kind of humor was seen on a lot of Seth MacFarlane stuff, such as Family Guy or American Dad. And gods, is it good to be back in the parody subgenre. It's one of my favorite types of film to watch because I love movies, so seeing how it can make fun of action tropes and, different things you see over and over again, flip the script, twist it, turn it, smack it, slap it, spank it, suck it, cuck it, fuck it, I'm in. And much like a lesbian going to prison, this is an all-you-can-eat buffet of different kinds of comedy. I would say 70% of them are play on words, but you also have a lot of slapstick gags. You got just comical references. It dips its pinky into the action genre here and there. I think they could go further with another installment. I'd like to see them go after movies like John Wick a little bit more, play off all of the gun fu and whatnot. They do some, for sure, towards the end of this, and it's a hilarious moment, sprinkled throughout a bunch of hilarious moments. My favorite portion of the film is definitely the most Seth MacFarlane-esque of the 90 minutes, and that involves a snowman, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. It definitely feels on brand with something MacFarlane and even The Lonely Island would do. Since movies have evolved so much over the years, it's great to have a parody back to point out all the silliness of them. And it was very wise to keep this at 90 minutes because it's hard to sustain laughter for 2 full hours. And with the jokes coming rapid fire, you could easily rewatch this again and pick up some stuff you missed the first time because the audience was drowning out the next 1 or 2 punches. I don't even know what to say. I am giddy over this film. I am absolutely glowing like a pregnant woman who just left the abortion clinic. It is such a relief to see something fun again that doesn't take anything serious, a film that doesn't pull punches. The jokes mainly land, but don't worry, even if you don't laugh at 20% of them, you got another one just around the corner. I've stated this before, but when it comes to toilet humor, fart jokes, etc., I'm not above it. I just appreciate them more when there's some nuance or there's a little bit of intelligence behind the fart. And The Naked Gun is a great example of that. Yeah, Frank Drebin loses his shit literally at one point after eating some chili dogs. The humor doesn't come from that. It's from the way he reacts and how he repeats the same mistake several times afterwards. Diarrhea can be fun when it's happening to someone else, but it's the acknowledgement of the situation and the massive cloud of shame that haunts them shortly after when they have to relive the experience in front of their peers. That's humor. If you're thinking about taking the family to this one, it is PG-13. Like I said, it's short and sweet. There's some adult content in here, nothing more than you would see in an Austin Powers film. In fact, they pretty much rip off an Austin Powers gag that's in all 3 of the movies. And I don't necessarily count this as a negative, but I've definitely seen enough comedies and films in general where I can go, yep, that was done in this movie. Yep, that type of joke was done over here. It's not all fresh and original ideas, but the execution is rock solid. Speaking of solid, let's talk about the production shortly, which is very well executed. This was a problem that I think really was the final nail in the coffin for parody films. You know, outside of a bunch of hacks ruining it by making crappy, unfunny films, the big issue for me was they stopped putting any effort into the production at all. The movies all looked incredibly cheap. The outfits, the music, the environments were all low effort shit. The team here understood the assignment. They knew that people watching this need to be pulled into the world in order to really get hit with the jokes. This movie needed to have a budget so that it could mirror these action movies, these cop films that it's parodying. I have almost no notes for this. The only negative, and it's such a pathetic, piddly little thing. The only negative I would say is it doesn't really nail the ending. The final moments of this movie kind of come and go like a fart wafting in the wind, which is a shame. If they would have pulled off that one final hit to get the audience rolling over in their seats, it would have made things just that much better. But as it stands, 90 minutes, entertaining, fun moments, constant laughs. It's a win. It's an easy win. And I implore you to go out and watch this movie if you feel like getting a couple chuckles, because we need to support parody movies coming back. We need to support comedies, for Christ's sakes. I really don't want to see Happy Gilmore 3, 4, and 5 on Netflix because it's such a cheap, easy way to get people watching because they have the app at home. Getting your ass out to the theaters and then maybe joining your ass there is the perfect way to showcase our support. All right, there you have my thoughts on The Naked Gun. Very funny, very clever, a very fitting installment to the Naked Gun franchise. Let me know if you saw it already or if you plan on to now. Please leave a comment down below, like this video, and if you wouldn't mind subscribing to Adam Does Movies on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, I would be pleased as punch if you did. Okay, hopefully I see you next time. Bye, frankly. Skididdy-diddy, flididdy, skidididdy-dee. Wow, we had some fun, did we? On a serious note, if you appreciate my content, I am a one-man band. This is a ton of work, and you want a way to give back. Head on over to patreon.com/AdamDoesMovies. There's tons of exclusive perks over there. Look at these awesome supporters so far. There's some of the best people on this planet, and you could be one of them. You could be right there alongside, and I would appreciate it.